We can throw numbers and facts and figures at you all day long to tell you what the F-16 is like, but the only way to really understand is to go get in the cockpit.
It's one of the sweetest looking jets, one of the most beautiful aircraft out there.
Lieutenant Colonel James Flash Frickle has flown the F-16 for 20 years, but he's had his eye on jets for about as long as he can remember.
Kindergarten, I wanted to be a farmer, and then first grade, from then on, I wanted to be a pilot.
He's the commander of the 466th Fighter Squadron and the pilot taking me up.
It's like putting on snow pants.
There's a pre-flight briefing.
These are some puke bags, but I'll get you a Ziploc, it's a little better.
Then climb into the jet. Pilots say their first flight in the Viper leaves a pretty strong impression.
It handles like a dream. It's a sports car. It's a fighter pilot's dream.
For an aviation enthusiast with the childhood dream of flying in a jet like this, it should leave a pretty big impression on me, too. It's hard to describe that feeling. The Viper can take up to 9 Gs, but Flash didn't push it that high. Even so, that initial pull-up really sets the tone. On our way to the operations area, we flew in formation with Danger, another F-16 pilot. Then a couple of new F-35s formed up on our wing. These are the fighter jets taking the place of all the F-16s at Hill Air Force Base. After a couple of minutes of formation flying, those 35s are gone and the maneuvers begin. Flash begins with a hard turn to the left, then a harder one to the right. We were pulling G's our camera couldn't quite handle. Then we drop to a few hundred feet off the ground, hundreds of miles per hour, and pull straight up. G-suits prevent too much blood from leaving our brains, so we won't pass out during high G maneuvers. After about an hour of demonstrating what the F-16 can do in flight, we head back to Hill Air Force Base. It's hard to process everything happening around you during a flight like that. It's not really until after you're back on the ground that you can start to appreciate what you just experienced. One thing I do know is that bag came back empty.
Back on the ground here inside Hill Air Force Base. It was an amazing ride. No puke in the bag, thankfully. Came down with a clean cockpit. We were pretty lucky because that was one of the last two-seat F-16 rides here at Hill Air Force Base. All the F-16s will be down at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico by the end of the month. At Hill Air Force Base, Sean Moody, KSL 5 News.
People who work out at Bountiful Air Park say there's never been a better time to enter the airlines, but you can't get up to one of those airliners way up in the sky without first starting in a cockpit like this one.
But the nice thing about the industry right now, things are going so fast.
Matthew Schroeder is a captain for SkyWest Airlines. He's hoping to do some recruiting.
There is a unique opportunity for pilots right now.
Over the next 20 years, Boeing estimates North America will need 112,000 new pilots.
But that demand is not going to go away. Those pilots are still going to be retiring at their mandatory retirement age of 65.
Those opportunities start in small planes like this one.
Aviation is something everybody can do.
Jason Clark's a flight instructor for Bountiful Flight.
We have $25 introductory flights today.
They and several other schools and universities across Utah have teamed up with SkyWest.
You'll be a flight instructor, have a seniority number at SkyWest Airlines, and as soon as you have your hours, you're on.
They start out in small planes like this Czech Sport. Jason hopes safety features like a full airplane parachute will attract people.
We actually pick it up, bring it back, repack the parachute, and it'll be flying on our flight line again.
As the crowds come into Bountiful for the festival this weekend, Jason and Matt hope to see them consider a career in the cockpit.
It is simply the best job in the world.
This event's also going on all day tomorrow from 9 to 4 at Sky Park Airport. In the skies above Salt Lake City, Sean Moody, KSL 5 News.
You're going down.
You're going down. She's sugar and spice and everything nice. And wit. And grit. Fight.
She always beats me.
And flight.
We get a lot of the TikTok and the YouTube, but you know, we start talking about
weight and balance and CGs and flight envelopes.
Sparkle Minor comes from a family of pilots, all of them men.
There you go, keep that little nose up.
Sparkle, who is 12 years old, has just finished ground school and is learning to fly.
All right, we're gonna keep climbing straight out over the top of the runway.
The problem that she has right now is she can't reach the rudder pedals very well.
Hoping to get her pilot's license to become the youngest female pilot in Utah.
The youngest I can, which is 17.
With dreams of having her own plane.
The tail number would be Sparkle in cursive.
I did not like math at all, but now that I'm flying, I love math.
Despite her enthusiasm, there are crosswinds.
So I hear people at school, girls can't be pilots, it's only a boy profession. It makes me feel angry and I want to go up to them and tell them that it's not true.
But Sparkle has a role model.
Oh, see it starting to come down a little bit.
Chief Pilot Kendra Hart.
Women, just like men, are great at staying calm under pressure. I think they feel a little bit more pressure to achieve, and because sometimes the expectation can be lower, and I think that sometimes women feel that. But I think that they're absolutely just as capable.
You see all these airplanes out here at the Provo airport. Most of the people who fly them are men. In fact, only 6.8% of pilots in the U.S. are women.
And he lands all the way down.
The skies are clearing for women in aviation, with United Airlines setting a goal that half its student pilots will be women and minorities.
Gonna go full power. Looking at the airspeed indicator.
It's kind of like an adrenaline rush.
There's about 50, so go ahead and pull her back just a little bit. There we go. Then remember our nose position, we pointed at the mountains.
I feel free when I'm up in the air.
There you go, nice small bank angle in the climb.
I do climbs and descents, and then I do turns. I just feel like I'm in my element.
Her parents feel confident that with proper training, their daughter will be safe.
There are no lanes in the sky. You can go where you want.
And with enough tailwinds on her rudder, Sparkle's dreams are indeed gaining altitude.
The wings that I'm trying to give her are just the freedom to have the sky is the limit of all of her hopes and dreams.
I was born to fly.
All right, nice work.
Heather Simonson, KSL 5 News.
Yeah, it really is probably some excitement he'd have been glad to do without. This is one of those things that pilots always trained for, but hope they never have to use. Mike Patey told me it was that training and some discipline that kept him safe today.
I've been building and racing planes for a long time.
You never know what's behind a hangar door.
It's a 720 cubic inch 8-cylinder.
At Spanish Fork Springville Airport, Mike Patey has quite a collection.
It goes family, aviation, and I love my families.
But there's one plane missing.
Today was different.
Mike started Saturday off with a little formation flying with his friends, the Flying Cowboys.
So we had 3 big events of only airplanes today. I got through 2 of them.
Before he could get to his landing contest, though, something went wrong. They were over Utah Lake.
Purring like a kitten to catastrophic in 3, 2, 1, gone. I radioed back and I said, guys, get eyes on me. I'm going in, I'm not gonna make the land.
But just as Mike was about to hit that water, he got one final push.
I gained a couple hundred feet and then it went violet again and then just died.
Mike's friends shot video as he came down in a cornfield, his brother just off his wing. Realizing you're safely on the ground after something like that is a heck of a feeling.
Heavy landing, you can walk away from the good one.
Mike may not have gotten to his competition, but he put on quite a show anyway.
None of those guys have smoke in their plane, and I still got my landing, so I consider I won.
Mike's airplane, Wilga is what it's called. It's still sitting out there in that muddy cornfield. He hopes to get it out of there by Monday. And he already has another engine that he planned on putting it in there. He'll just get started on that project a little sooner than he anticipated. Keith, back to you.
And he's still laughing about it tonight. How about that? Good luck for him. Thank you, Sean.
It's one of the busiest days of the year at the Cynthiana Harrison County Airport. And it's all about kids.
It's pretty darn cool.
244 kids to be exact. The local chapter of the Experimental Aircraft Association's Young Eagles Day is all about teaching kids about airplanes.
Check this tank just like you did the other one.
About 15 and a half.
And getting them into the sky.
Go fly.
Michael Cave has been coming out to Young Eagles Day for a few years now.
People may call me a nerd for knowing every single part of the airplane and how an internal combustion engine works, but the joke's on them, I think.
The flights were around a half hour each, but there's a whole lot of experience packed into those 30 minutes.
It's just amazing.
During the flights, the kids took the controls to get a real taste of what it's like to be a pilot.
It's your airplane, buddy.
Yes, sir. Is there a specific way I should fly?
And who knows, they just might be in a couple of years.
You never know what you can do until you try.
In Cynthiana, Sean Moody, WKYT.
People who live near Hill Air Force Base know that sound well. The base's F-35s have been here for a few years now, but the show happening just overhead is pretty new. The Air Force's F-35 demo team was just reassigned to Hill late last year. They'll perform for audiences across the country, and the public will get to meet the pilot performing those wild maneuvers. No, it's not that man on the right, it's that little girl on the left.
I was always around aviation.
Captain Kristen Bayo Wolf. Bayo's been flying the F-35 for about 2.5 years, but aviation's always been in her blood. The man on the right in that picture is her dad, an Air Force F-15 pilot.
I grew up with this for, 20 plus years of seeing my dad do it, and now I'm actually doing something cool too.
Bayo flies as fast as 0.95 Mach during the routine. That's nearly the speed of sound.
And just make some noise and go loud and low and fast.
Air Force pilots aren't used to having thousands of people watching them while they fly their missions, but Bayo's looking forward to it. She's hoping she might help someone else soar toward their dreams.
And just to sit and take pictures with kids, give them your autograph, and talk to them and inspire them. That's super cool.
At Hill Air Force Base, Sean Moody, KSL 5 News.
It's been a pretty great day for weather throughout the area, and that means great conditions for flying. One group in the southern end of the Salt Lake Valley was looking to set an aviation record, and they don't even have engines. News specialist Sean Moody has the story.
If you fly past Point of the Mountain very often, you'll probably see a lot of that, these colorful paragliders and hang gliders. You may not realize this is a world-class spot for that, and a group of people from all around the country came today to set a record.
We just got a nice mellow wind coming in.
On a quiet Sunday morning.
So we're gonna kind of keep everybody over here.
There aren't many better ways to break the silence.
Just an amazing spot.
Than this.
We're just getting all prepped and ready and getting gear in check. All right, awesome.
Millie Wallace.
So much fun.
Brought this group together.
So everyone's gonna start bringing wings up. Try to get them all up at the same time at some point.
But Millie and the others here haven't seen Point of the Mountain look quite like this before.
Usually, in the mornings or in the afternoons when you fly in, it could be, 1 to 10 women out.
The group Sydney Osman is with out here this morning is a little different.
Today we have a sea of women, and so it's just really fun and empowering to all be together in the sport that we love doing.
They're from all over.
We got some people all the way from D.C., so East Coast. We got people from California.
Some beginners.
Yeah, Penny.
Others experts.
Bam, girl, there you go. So that's nice and clear for you, so.
They've got a goal in mind today. They're setting the record for the most women kiting their paragliders at once.
But the kiting part gets us our little workout for the day.
That's when they stand up with their wing up in the air.
Oh, it's awesome to see so much color and to know it's all ladies under each wing.
They'll be the first group to attempt this particular record, so they'll likely have it validated pretty easily. But today isn't so much about that record as it is the people.
Giggles like crazy this weekend. It's been fun.
While they're thankful to spend this time with the group they call the Paragliding Pixies, they're glad to be soaring with anybody, male or female.
The sky loves everyone, and I feel like all the paragliding pilots are just a bunch of family members.
Millie, that organizer, said they had about 35 women out there under those wings today. After that record attempt, they headed out for some cross-country flying. At Point of the Mountain, Sean Moody, KSL 5 News.
The pilot with the most hours in the F-16 calls this airplane a rocket ship. It's called Hill Air Force Base home for the past 38 years. In fact, this was the very first base to get the F-16 when it was brand new. Now, as these pilots are moving on to the next generation of fighter jet, they're thinking back fondly on all those years with the Viper.
Ask any pilot where the desire to fly came from, and they'll likely go back to childhood.
And I don't have any recollection of this, but my mom said one day I just came home and announced I was going to be a fighter pilot.
That last pilot is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Brill, call sign Brillo.
You see how the wing comes in, and it's actually kind of a blended.
He's retired now, but he has the most F-16 hours of any pilot in the Air Force.
The real wow moment was the first time you actually flew the airplane.
He was here at Hill Air Force Base in 1979 when they got the very first F-16.
When the F-16 showed up at Hill Air Force Base, I was 3 years old.
Lieutenant Colonel Michael Danger Meyer is the commander of the 421st Fighter Squadron. His pilots are in the process of transitioning to the new F-35 after all these years in the F-16.
Strapping on the F-16 and going out and flying in training or flying into harm's way, it becomes a kind of a part of you. So when you think about the eventuality of not doing that again, it's certainly going to be bittersweet.
It handles like a dream. It's a sports car. It's a fighter pilot's dream.
Lieutenant Colonel James Flash Frickle still gets excited about the Viper.
Every time I hear one in the area, you know, my wife still laughs at me. I immediately look up in the sky and watch it, and she's like, "You know you do that, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's different."
Frickle gave us an up-close look at exactly what the Viper can do in an hour-long flight. The Viper might be a few decades old, but it still has plenty of moves. Frickle's fighter squadron, the 466th, is also in the middle of the F-35 transition.
We fought the F-35s today, and they were amazing. It was not fair. We didn't even come close to getting them today, so it was a pretty amazing.
Whether they're younger pilots or were here from the very beginning, they'll all think fondly of the Viper.
There's never been an airplane like that. The legacy will be there forever.
Even though Hill Air Force Base's squadrons are saying goodbye to the F-16, you might still see it around from time to time. Hill Air Force Base does maintenance for squadrons around the country, and you may still see that silhouette flying in every now and then. At Hill Air Force Base, Sean Moody, KSL 5 News.